Mazda has unveiled essentially their entire 5 to 10 year plan moving forward, and there is some very, very exciting news here. But at the same time, I'm a little bit worried because I've had the pleasure of reviewing pretty much every single Mazda in their current lineup, from the Mazda 3 hatchback, the Miata, all the way up to the CX-90. And right now, Mazda's lineup is one of the best lineups in the business because it doesn't matter which Mazda you step into, they all feel proper, they all feel extremely sporty. For example, when I drove the CX-50, I felt like it was almost like driving a sports car. I was very surprised by that. And then we have the design, the Kodo design language, seeing it switched up a little bit now with the Mazda CX-5, the new design language there. But what I'm most worried about here are the interiors, because we saw the change for the CX-5, for example, the new one. We used to have nice integration of the gauge cluster inside of a housing, smaller screen up top, horizontally laid out. And now in the new CX-5, we have a massive TV in the center of the dash. We still thankfully have the gauge cluster intact, but I'm a little bit worried. I don't want to see Mazda go into this dual screen setup like everybody else is doing. I still want to have physical knobs and buttons in the interior, something that is lacking now in the new CX-5 as well. They removed it and put it into the software, I do believe. But the design language moving forward is going to be very, very nice, because we have the SP concept that's going to be the next Mazda Miata, for example. Very excited to see how they turn that into a production version. They're going to make a coupe, and then they're also going to make the new MX-5. I do believe it comes out in 2019. Even though I do not feel like we need to refresh the MX-5. It's the best sports car on sale right now, and I honestly don't want to see it be updated. But what we're going to do in this video is have a look at the lineup of Mazda, the entire lineup that I have right now. I might have missed a couple of models, but the key models for their lineup right now. And then, of course, before we do that, we're going to have a look at this article from Car Scoops, because there's a lot to talk about here. So let's jump in and have a look at what Mazda is planning moving forward with their lineup. So Mazda's future plans reveal what it thinks drivers actually want. Very interesting to see what they think drivers want in, let's say, 2030. And this is an article from Car Scoops. Of course, going to link it down below. So a measured rollout of hybrids and EVs is hiding something far more exciting. An in-house hybrid CX-5 arrives in 2027. I do like that Mazda is focusing a lot on hybrids and not too much, at least not yet, on EVs. They're taking it a little slow with EVs. So the brand aims to sell 250,000 units of the similarly sized CX-5 and the CX-50 hybrids annually. EVs and sports car are also in the pipeline. Great to see that, because Mazda, as you know, starting with the Miata from the 1989, the NA, I mean, they have been the producer of the best sports car since then, in my opinion. Then you also have a spiritual successor to the iconic RX-7, meaning that we are going to get a sports coupe, probably based on the SP concept. And if it's going to look like that when it comes out in production, I mean, we're not going to have the butterfly doors, obviously. That's not going to happen. But if the key design features of the next RX-7, so to speak, looks like the SP concept, it's going to be one heck of a good-looking vehicle. So it's blending hybrid models with steady electrification efforts and continued updates across its core lineup. The new generation of its top-selling model, the CX-5, has been introduced, and the redesign matters. The more significant news is the addition of the hybrid powertrain that was talked about in 2027 coming out. They need to have a hybrid in the lineup because the competition is getting too hard without a hybrid. So they definitely need to put that in there. Now, through the first half of 2025, Mazda sold 636,968 units, a lot. In the biggest market is still the United States, with over 210,000 units sold, which is up 3.9%, and its sales went up 18.7% in Japan, but went down in Europe and China. So Mazda is doing pretty well right now, and I can see why. I do think that has to do with people just wanting these type of driving experiences, and also coming into a Mazda, the interiors, they're just beautiful. It feels like Go into this CX90, for example, with this brown interior. Everything feels high quality and it almost feels old school when you step into a brand new CX90 or a CX70 as well. So, although the CX30, the small one, is smaller by US standards, it holds the position as Mazda's third best selling vehicle in the US, just behind the CX5 and the CX50. To me, I would 100% go with the CX50. I do love the styling of the CX50. It has a very almost stately design, box, and then you have these beautiful fenders over both the front and the rear, and it looks super planted looking at it from a rear end, because you have these fake vents in the rear that widens out the body of the CX5. The CX30 is starting to look a little bit more dated, but it's still a beautiful looking design. So the CX30 was introduced in 2019 and probably will be updated in 2029. Now the CX50 arrived in late 2021. Same thing here as with the Miata. I do not want to see it be updated because it's such a good, great, fantastic vehicle. And it might get an update in 2030, so we got 5 more years for that. CX70, CX90, also fantastic looking designs. Beautiful to drive the CX70, one of the sportiest SUVs out there. I don't know what it is about Mazda, but every single Mazda, they have this sporty vibe to it. It doesn't matter what type of vehicle you're stepping into. The CX90, the CX70, they feel almost like sports cars. It's very strange, and so does the CX50. They don't feel like other SUVs in the same segment, and the CX70 is the one I would pick personally over the CX90 because I don't need the third row, and I also prefer the more sporty styling in the front end, the rear end bumper, the lower bumper for the CX70 compared to the CX90. Now, finally, the Mazda 3 that is available in a hatchback and sedan forms and remains largely unchanged since 2018 and is expected to carry on for at least 4 more years. Great. I don't have anything bad to say about any model from Mazda right now. The Mazda 3, again, the turbo is fantastic, 250 horsepower. The only thing I would like to see there is a manual transmission. You can't get the turbo with a manual. Doesn't make sense to me. If they put a manual in that, it would be one of the best hatchbacks on the market today, but you do get it with the automatic. I do think it's a 6-speed automatic, so it's not a CVT at least. So a new generation of the model could arrive in 2032 for the Mazda 3. Now last but not least, before we jump into the sports cars here, the first EV developed entirely in-house is slated for a 2027 introduction and could reach US dealers in 2028. Though details remain under wraps, the vehicle is expected to be a crossover, meaning that it's going to be a vehicle that does not know what it wants to be. And this is probably the only Mazda model in the near future that I'm not going to be a massive fan of, because I feel they're going to try to cram too many car categories or vehicle categories into one vehicle. They try to do too much and not have it to be either an SUV, a sedan, or a hatchback or whatever. Instead, they're making it a crossover. We're going to have to wait and see. Maybe it's a fantastic vehicle. I don't know, because we haven't seen it yet. So Mazda has 2 sports cars in development, each aimed at reviving the brand's enthusiast credentials before the decade wraps up. And the most exciting arrival is the production version of the 2023, as we talked about, the iconic SP concept. What a car that is. Fantastic looking design. Almost looks like an Aston Martin Vantage. Put some nice wheels on there, and you have one of the best cars of the decade, I would say. And this is fitted with a rotary range extender electric powertrain. Reports from Japan suggest we might first lay eye on the new sports car as early as next year. Hopefully, I'm very excited to see how that is going to turn into the production version. Now, the low slung two-door coupe is designed to be a spiritual successor to, as we talked about, the RX-7. Now, the MX-5, very, very important model for Mazda. It's still going up in sales, even though it came out in 2016, the current version. It's still selling like crazy. And what does that tell you? It tells you that people want a stripped down basic sports car, manual transmission, only 180 horsepower or something like that, power sent to the rear wheel, lightweight, extremely fun to drive. There is still a massive market for a car like the MX-5, and they are not updating it yet, which is great, because I think they need to take their time with the replacement for this. And they say that a new launch could be scheduled for 2029 for a new model. Encouragingly, it's expected to keep its 4-cylinder gasoline engine. I also hope that it keeps the size and the overall footprint. I don't want to see the next MX-5 be any bigger than what it currently is. In case you missed it, my 11-hour online class in design sketching is now only $47. If you have any desire to pick up the skill of sketching products using simple tools such as a big pen and cheap print paper, this is something you want to check out. Over the years, I've taught thousands of students from all around the world how to sketch cars and products, and most of them have seen amazing results from my classes. Analog Designer Pro Pack is the full bundle of all my classes I've released over the years, and it's yours for just $47. Check out everything that's included and see what my students have to say in the link in the description, or simply visit analogdesignerpropack.com. Let's jump into Photoshop here and have a look at the lineup. I'm going to let you know what I think about every single model of these, since I had the pleasure of reviewing every one of these in person. Now, the Mazda 3 hatchback, some say it's too small. For me, being 6'1", 6'2", I had no problems whatsoever fitting in here. And this design language, Kodo design language, one of the best looking hatchbacks in the business. Extremely fun to drive as well, even though I drove the front engine manual, which was fun to drive, but honestly, I would still go with the turbo for this, 250 horsepower, even though we don't get the manual transmission in there, which is a shame, because it would make for such a great vehicle if they just slapped in the same manual that we had in the non-turbo version of the Mazda 3. But still a beautiful looking design, one of the best looking hatchbacks out there. Get it in Soul Red with the, I mean, I would switch out the wheels and lower it a little bit and just make it a proper hatchback. Now look at the Mazda CX-5. This being the old one, you can see that it has the same design language as we have in the Mazda 3 up here. And we did get the new one down here. And this is the front face that I think we're going to see on a lot more Mazda models moving forward, because what Mazda tend to do, they refresh one model and then they sort of slap this exact same face in different sizes onto the rest of the lineup. So I think that is what's going to happen here. And honestly, I actually prefer the old design, because I think this has more of this organic human touch to it and flow to the design than what we had in what we have in the new CX-5. This looks more robotic, even though it still looks good. It has this more I don't know, non-human look and more robotic industrial look to it. I do like the daytime running lights right here, because it has a thicker piece here going into a thinner piece, creating some dynamic movement, and also how this sits in the step level like this. And the grille is pretty much exactly the same as what we had before. The lower section down here is wider and bigger than what we had in the previous generation. You can see just how small the intake was here, but it still looked great. It still looked very beautiful and elegant looking design. As again, the new one doesn't look bad, but honestly, I think I prefer the front end of the old one, but the rear end of the new one looks so good, and it feels like such a more modern design than the old CX-5 if you look at the new one from a rear view. The rear view for me is a home run for the new CX-5. Looks great, and it looks like you still have the option of getting a version at least of this beautiful, one of the best colors in the business right now, the Soul Red, of course. Switch out the black wheels, Mazda. Come on, black wheels are out. It's played out. We've had black wheels now for I don't know how many years. It's time to bring back some silver and gunmetal wheels like we have on the Mazda CX-50. Now this design, just a proper look at the stance of this vehicle. And the reason why we have this stance is, first of all, we have the hood line. Comparing this to the Mazda the CX-30, which actually this is of course the CX-30. I mean, of course, I should have known that. It's not the CX-5. This is the CX-5 down here, and this is, of course, the CX-30. My mistake there. Looking at the CX-50 down here, comparing this to the CX-30, the CX-30 has a lot more organic flow to it and more sort of fluid designs, while the CX-50 has a much more stately design. The nose sticks out. I like how the headlight sits deep within the bodywork. We have this nice chamfer going right here. Very horizontally stretched out grille, creating this wide stance. And the best feature about this design are these fender muzzles that we have going over the rear and the front axle right there. And some beautiful intakes in the front end, completely functional right here with a nice chamfer housing it. I love this indicator light down there, the pulsating, this Mazda pulsating, I'm not sure if you've seen it, just creating this very calm look. It's not LED on and off, very static. It has a nice pulsating design to it. And we have a nice intake in the lower section as well. This is one of my favorite looking mid-size SUVs, and this is, if I were in the market for one of these, I would probably, in this segment, I would probably go with a CX-50. That is how much I love this vehicle, the design, and specifically how it feels to drive. Go and drive one of these, and I'm sure you're going to be surprised at just how well it drives. It feels, honestly, like a sports car when you step into this. Now, looking at the CX-70 down here, looks very similar to the CX-90, of course, even though we lose the third row. Beautiful color here as well, and stately design. Proper Coda design language right here. Love how the headlights, again, similar to what we have in the CX-50, sit deep within the bodywork, inside of the body, and we have different solutions down here. This is also one of the reasons why I would pick the CX-70 over the CX-90, because of this area. This specific lower section looks way sportier than what we have in the CX-90 with the chrome bits and all of that stuff going on down there. This is a much more sporty design. Subtle changes in the front end for the CX-70 just makes it into a completely different vehicle for me compared to the CX-90, and that is the reason. And of course, that we lose the third row and get more luggage space. That is something I personally prefer. Now, coming into the Mazda MX-5. What a legend this is. I reviewed the 2024 model year, and just a couple of weeks ago, I had the 2025 model year, the Grand Touring, the top-of-the-line trim. Not the Club, which I personally prefer, which this is right here. I've tried the RF, the hardtop, folding hardtop, and the soft top as well. Personally, I think I would go with the hardtop, to be honest, because when I fold up the roof of the hardtop, it felt more like the insulation was better. I mean, for longer road trips, definitely prefer the hardtop. But for summer days, I mean, you still get the benefit of a convertible almost with the RF, because you can fold down the roof. You feel like you're sitting in a convertible. But this is, I mean, by far one of the best sports cars ever made. All the generations of the MX-5. I love everything about this vehicle. It's not the quietest vehicle when you're on the highway, and it revs about 3,500 RPM going 70. That's just how everything is geared. But the good news about that is when you take it out the mountains, you have to shift gears a lot because of the gearing and how this is set up. These type of mountain roads are where this feels the most at home, and not on the highway. But I would still drive it cross country, no problems whatsoever. Now, looking at the new SP concept down here, and you can see the evolution. I feel like this is going to be the front end of the next MX-5. We're probably not going to have these fold-up headlights right here. This can cover the headlights with this little flap right here. That's not going to make it into production, and neither are these doors going up like this. But the overall styling, what I'm so happy to see about this vehicle is that this still has this design language to it that is similar to the Coda design language that we've seen from Mazda in the past. But it doesn't have this static design that I see so many other car manufacturers moving into right now. Volvo is definitely not what the direction I want to see them go in. It's getting way too product designy and industrial. BMW with the new chiseledness going on everywhere and weird graphics in the front end. We don't have this fluidity. It feels like an animal. I want the car to look like a living animal, and I think this embodies that type of design language when I look at this. And look at this interesting line right here going down from the A-pillar, and then we have the door cut right there. Very, very beautiful. And look at the reflections in the bodywork here. Absolutely stunning looking design. It looks like a much more it looks like an exotic sports car, this piece, and I cannot wait to see what that is going to look like in production form.